The New World Order is not just a simple conspiracy theory, but a well-thought-out, prepared and organized plan for a long time, which is now being put into action. Behind this plan are the puppeteers, evil forces whose main goal is absolute power and total control over humanity. In front, we only see their puppets, the political and economic leaders who are manipulated to implement this monstrous plan. It is nothing less than the eradication of humanity as we know it now, transforming the world into a dystopian nightmare. To achieve this sinister goal, the puppeteers behind the New World Order must use psychological and physical abuse on a large scale. An intelligent species like ours cannot be driven to extinction without intense and subtle training. Over the past few decades, we have been subjected to a cultural and psychological training designed to make us accept this post-human future. We live in a hyper-controlled matrix, where our perception of reality is manipulated, monitored and managed to keep us under control. The puppeteers have clearly set the direction. This is towards a post-human world, where the values of humanity, such as freedom, autonomy and spirituality, are eradicated. To implement the New World Order, the forces of darkness must first destabilize, dehumanize, and demoralize humanity. The destruction of the traditional family is a crucial step in this direction. The family, as the fundamental unit of society, is a bulwark of resistance against totalitarian control. Therefore, the New World Order has made sustained efforts to weaken and erode this institution. A father, masculine; mother, feminine; grandfather, grandmother; brothers, sisters. Abortion has been promoted as a liberating solution, while pro-family and pro-life values have been ridiculed and marginalized. Religious faith, another essential pillar of traditional society, has been systematically attacked and eradicated. Our God, the divine creator of billions of universes, has been ridiculed, blamed, mocked, if not outright banned. The destruction of spirituality and classical education, in favor of a consumerist and nihilistic culture, has been another tactic used to dehumanize and demoralize the population. In addition, the promotion of megalopolises and hyper-crowded urban life has aimed to sever people's connection with nature and healthy food. Toxic food, based on processed and artificial products, along with the promotion of insects and other artificial substitutes, are intended to weaken people's bodies and minds, making them more vulnerable to manipulation. Social media, another powerful tool of control, has replaced authentic human interaction. Instead of meeting and communicating face-to-face, we are encouraged to interact through screens, thus creating a social isolation that makes us easier to control. Financial crises, conflicts and wars are also used to maintain a climate of constant fear and to justify increased fiscal pressure and surveillance measures. Another important aspect of the New World Order plan is the establishment of a so-called relativistic morality. This amorality and immorality represent a new religion in itself, replacing traditional values with an ideology in which anything is permitted, as long as it serves the interests of those in power. In this context, the movements of those who are on the other side, although presented as a fight for civil rights and freedom of expression, are actually social engineering tools used to destroy traditional gender identity and dehumanize the population. Fear has always been a powerful tool of control. The puppeteers behind the New World Order have understood this and exploited it to the fullest to achieve their goals. The recent pandemic perversely imposed on an entire planet was a perfect example of how fear, can be used to impose draconian measures, such as generalized quarantine, electronic surveillance, and control of individual freedoms. Although many of these measures were presented as necessary to protect public health, in reality, they were intended to test the limits of social acceptability and prepare the ground for future, even more restrictive measures. The media has played a key role in amplifying fear. By constantly presenting negative news and doomsday scenarios, the public has been conditioned to accept the restrictive measures imposed by governments without much questioning. This tactic has been used not only in the context of the pandemic, but also in relation to other global crises, such as climate change, terrorism, or economic crises. In essence, the population is kept in a constant state of fear and anxiety, which makes individuals much more willing to give up their freedoms in exchange for a promise of security. Another way to control the population is through division. The puppeteers of the New World Order have succeeded in creating and exploiting deep faults within society, whether it be racial, ideological, economic, or religious conflicts. This strategy, divide and rule, makes the population much easier to control, as individuals fight among themselves instead of turning their attention to the real culprits of the deterioration of their living conditions. Whether it is left versus right, urban versus rural, or secular versus religious, the New World Order has succeeded in polarizing society to such an extent that social cohesion has become almost impossible. Another goal of the New World Order is to destroy the concept of traditional masculinity. This strategy is part of a larger effort to transform individuals into androgynous beings, devoid of the distinctive features that have defined men and women throughout history. Masculinity is under attack on many fronts, psychologically, culturally, and biologically. The media constantly promotes images of men who are either weak or demonized as aggressive and toxic. At the same time, sports and other traditional arenas of masculinity are being infiltrated by transgender competitors, thus undermining the very essence of competition based on equal opportunities. A relevant example is the controversy surrounding the Paris Olympics, where transgender athletes participated in women's competitions, provoking outrage and raising questions about the fairness of the competition. This is not just a sporting anomaly, it is part of a larger plan to abolish gender differences and create an androgynous generation, easy to control and manipulate. In addition, popular culture constantly promotes androgynous figures and transgender models in various fields, from showbiz to politics. Political leaders in various countries are either bisexual or transgender or fervent supporters of the opposite movements. This manipulation strategy aims to create a population that accepts the elimination of traditional notions of masculinity and femininity in favor of a fluid, malleable and controllable identity. Civil documents are modified, father and mother are no longer mentioned. The headings of civil documents become Parent 1 and Parent 2. Public toilets have 3 sections: men, women and transgender. One of the most disturbing aspects of this agenda is how the New World Order is targeting children, turning them into pawns of a radical ideology. From a young age, children are exposed to radical ideas about gender identity and sexuality, encouraged to question their biological body and adopt a fluid identity. This indoctrination begins in schools, where children are taught that they can choose or change their gender, and continues through the media and social media. The 2021 law introduced by the most pathetic American president in history, which allows 16-year-olds to change their organs at the expense of the state, is an alarming example of this agenda. This legislation only fuels confusion and disorientation among young people, preparing them for a life in which their biological identity is considered irrelevant. The indoctrination of children is not limited to gender identity. They are also encouraged to adopt notions of non-human identity, such as identifying as animals or plants. These absurd ideas only undermine the concept of humanity and create a generation of disoriented, easily controlled individuals. Transhumanism is an ideology heavily promoted by global elites that claims that the future of humanity lies in the fusion of man and technology. This is not just a futuristic ideal, but an essential part of the agenda of the New World Order, which seeks to overcome the biological limitations of the human being and create a new species of people, completely controlled and manipulated by technology. In the transhumanist vision, humans will become hybrid entities, with brains connected to artificial intelligence networks, bodies enhanced with cybernetic components, and artificially prolonged lives. This technological evolution is presented not only as an inevitable progress, but also as a solution to all of humanity's problems. However, in reality, it is a major step towards the complete dehumanization of our species. Under the guise of improving health and extending life, transhumanism paves the way for total control over individuals. With technology implanted directly into our bodies, global elites could monitor, influence, and control every aspect of our lives, from thoughts and emotions to behaviors and decisions, at the touch of a button. This transhumanist agenda is not just a dystopian fantasy, but a rapidly approaching reality. Research and experimentation in brain implants, cybernetic augmentations, and genetic manipulation are already underway, and the future that transhumanists envision could become the norm within decades. In the face of this global threat, the resilience of humanity becomes essential. Throughout history, people have demonstrated a remarkable capacity to rise up against oppression and fight for their fundamental rights. In the face of the New World Order, we must rediscover these capacities and use them to protect our freedoms and human identity. People must be informed about the dangers that this evil agenda brings and understand how they are manipulated and controlled. It is also necessary to return to the fundamental values that define us as people. Religious faith, the traditional family created since the beginning of humanity. Man and woman who give life to children. Classical education, work, respect, honesty, the fatherland, and respect for the human being, for nature and for everything that surrounds us. In the face of this disgusting disease, it is essential to preserve these values and promote them as a response to the moral relativism and secularism promoted by the New World Order. Solidarity and unity are also crucial. Instead of being divided by ideologies and artificial conflicts created by puppet masters, we must join forces and work together to protect our freedoms. Only through collective action can we confront this global threat. The New World Order poses a serious threat to humanity, but it is not invincible. History shows us that people have the capacity to resist oppression and defend their rights and freedoms. The fight will not be easy, but with faith, courage and determination, we can protect our humanity and build a future based on freedom, justice and human dignity. Almighty God, no matter what we call Him, is omnipresent, and the forces of good can triumph, if we are willing to fight for them.